Hi,
Hi,
Kelly.
Christy.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much. I'm so happy. We were just offline, and will you share what you said was going to hurt by the time we were?
I said I was gonna feel some movement and exercise of the muscles in my face and my cheeks and my jaw because I'm happy and I'm smiling so much. And it's a real big smile.
So why are you so happy?
Uh, I am happy to be at a place in my life where I'm feeling ready and honored to connect and talk and engage in the present moment.
What is it like? I don't know why that's so. What is it about? And maybe like this is totally coming to me right now about the present moment. Maybe it has to do with our realization as we get older that we're closer to our death. But I just
Mhm.
feel like
Yep.
that we care more about it's not just COVID. Like, yes, COVID had us face that. So I don't want to park that totally to the side because I feel like people are so sick of talking about COVID that we're starting to lose the lessons that actually surfaced from that. So I don't want to totally shove it to the side.
Mhm.
But I do think there's something about getting older that you do crave that presentness,
Yes.
right?
Right. It's the gift.
It
It's right
is.
now.
You just have like a staring contest the whole time and see who laughs first. That
Okay.
would be really fun. But then people who are listening would be like, what's happening? But hopefully it would inspire people because anyone who does a staring contest who doesn't laugh, I mean, that's the quickest way to laugh is to do a staring contest or like
You know
try
what I'm thinking
it.
about? I'm thinking about Conan O'Brien and um, Jim Carrey and Conan O'Brien, and they were having a staring contest and then a cackling contest.
I am making a note and I'm totally putting that link if I can find it in the show notes. If
That
I
would be
can find
great.
that is amazing.
I want to watch
That
it
is
again.
that is amazing. I'm watching it right after this. I love that, but and I love it leads so much to what you're here for, what you're here in the world for, and what you're here talking about is
Mm.
this idea of how to connect with ourself through movement and how
Mhm.
by moving, it's so the term is embodied self-awareness. We hear a lot about
Mhm.
conceptual self-awareness, which is very logical and mental. It's very
Mhm.
paying attention to strengths and weaknesses and how you're quote unquote showing up. And embodied self-awareness is such more of an internal connection with yourself. So can you just demystify from your own definition of having your experience being a dancer, being a mover, being a yoga
Yeah.
instructor? What does
Okay.
embodied self-awareness mean?
Well, um, the first thing that's coming up is my mind. And I have a very curious, active mind, and I always have. And sometimes that can get in the way of being fully present in the moment, on the planet, connecting with other beings. And so I gravitated towards movement. Thank you, mom. My mother saw that I was a mover and was like, all right, let's channel this. And, gymnastics, theater, music, and then dance. And for me, I find that when I get too stuck in this cerebral overthinking, what is it called? Analysis paralysis, right? I have to start moving my body. So this is what's tricky for me is even as I'm talking with you and engaging in a dialogue is I've got this motion that's going on inside, right? In order to keep me present and to keep me grounded and to have me tuned into my breath. Yeah. So I find for me as an overactive thinker, an analyzer, connecting with my body and the sensations going on in my body and around my body help me to stay more present.
So I mean, this part I can edit out as I
Okay.
shift back. So I'm going to be going back and forth between 1 shots and 2 shots. So that's if you see me
Okay.
kind of bopping around behind the scenes.
Okay.
Um, so so you're talking about moving your body so that you can get out of your head. So
Yeah.
can you highlight how to do, so for people who are just unconsciously movers, I move a
Yes.
lot too. And I am very clear on when I'm moving out of anxiety, almost like protection, out of nerves of not wanting to
Oh.
face what's happening. And then out of moving more consciously out of like, I know I need to move my body so that I can get out of my head versus moving my
Mm.
body to kind of stay in my head. Is that
Oh, that second part, I can't go there yet. So the first part, um, so now I'm thinking about when people make a choice to come to their mat or to come into a space and take an hour and connect with their body and connect with the earth and connect with each other.
so? What about that? What about people
Mm.
making that choice that has
So
to
when,
do?
so when we make that choice to go into a practice, be it 15 minutes or half an hour or an hour, I don't know if this is what it's been like for you in the experience, but I know for me, if I start my day somehow devoting some time to intentionally moving my body with breath, and I call it greasing the joints, right? And tapping into what parts of my body are talking to me right now. Oh, wow, my knees are talking. Okay, let's give some breath and attention and movement there. Oh, my lower back is talking, which then can also connect to the mind, which might be, lower back pain can be, am I feeling a lack of support in my life right now? Right. And just looking at that and observing that as I breathe and move through my lower back. And then you know what else, Christy, is coming up? And I'm hearing this from a lot of people in my communities. There's a lot of stuff going on with the heart, right? Because our self, there's the small self, and then there's the capital S self, which is the collective self. And there's so much going on right now that we may not even be aware that we're carrying a collective emotional response in our heart space right now, right? And so when something feels stuck or heavy or uncomfortable or it has tension, that's information.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
So when it feels stuck and uncomfortable, oftentimes we move,
No, yeah, we got to tap into it. We got to
right?
go. We have to go, okay. Ooh. Like for me, it's been going on in the middle of my thoracic spine this week. So the middle of my back, between my shoulder blades, something stuck back there, right? So getting on the mat or getting in my chair or getting on the floor or getting outside in the backyard and taking a moment to close my eyes and breathe into that space and feel it, feel the discomfort. Go, okay. So, this back of my spine, the space between my shoulder blades, the back of my heart feels sticky. I'm going to breathe into this space and I'm going to gently say hello. And as we say in our circles, I'm going to invite whatever this discomfort is in for tea. I'm going to say, hi, how are you? How's it going back there? Wow. Okay, I hear you. I feel you. What is it you want to tell me? And I'm processing this right now with you. So this space back here is telling me there's a lot of dis-ease and discomfort and fear going on, not just with myself, but globally, right? So it's both and that's okay. And by moving with some gentleness and some ease and some breath, how can I hold this space and be with it and acknowledge it so that I can breathe and move through it?
Well, and you said something there in essence that I feel like, because I'm hearing people who are very busy,
Hmm.
because they're like, not just because they are quote unquote trying to keep up being busy, but their lives are really full. And like the idea of taking that time, it's like, what's the point of it? What good is
Mm.
that really going to do? So for the people who are like, okay, that sounds great, to like, or maybe I don't know if that totally sounds great, like maybe it's kind of inviting, but at the same time, what is the point? What would you say to someone who's kind of like, why should I even take 2 minutes to check in to see how?
Because you don't want to burn out. And that's what's going on. That's what I'm seeing happening right now, is because we're going through this transition of reintegrating. And there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of influence and a lot of opinions going on. And we want to make sure that we come back and we reintegrate feeling connected in our bodies, connected to the earth, so that we can be really conscientious about the connections that we're making and the choices that we're making, right? So tapping into that space, that's my word this year, space. Space, and then come from this place of groundedness and coming from the space of my heart and coming from a clear intention from my mind space as well. So it's all three, right? Body, mind, heart.
And I love the idea of going space first.
Mhm.
So because if we're in our head, it creates a very strong constriction.
Right, you're
So
doing it with your body right now.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And so to create that space and to ground, that is
Mhm.
the other super important, like that, everything I was hearing you say in regards, because I want to add on too, is that yes, burnout is real, and yes, the reintegrate, so many things. So the yes, and the idea that slowing down allows you to feel more connected to yourself and to everybody, so you're able to really understand that you may be feeling something internally that
Mhm.
isn't just you. It also is the state of the world. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot going on. And so it's not to um, discount your responsibility for how you are part of the whole and say, oh, well, it's all the stuff happening in the world. It's just, it's almost a supportive ease of like relief, like, okay, it is me and it
And
is the world. So I want to
mhm.
make sure that we highlight that piece. And the second is the idea of grounding that you were talking about. And you
Mhm.
talked about being in your backyard. I have for my entire life dealt with depression and anxiety while being able to
Mhm.
function in the world. So this is for
Uh-huh.
people who can function in the world, um, and also have anxiety and or depression, right? And so, and I feel like a lot of us have a lot of that over the last 2 years, and it may have
Mhm.
been heightened by people who never really thought of themselves as anxious. I know a lot of people who are like, I never considered myself anxious, and now I feel like there's like, I heard someone say like a baseline anxiety happening right now. And
Mhm.
so just taking a few seconds too. So in addition to not burning out, in addition to being able to connect with yourself to make better decisions, you're also taking a few seconds to remind yourself that you are quote unquote safe, because when we're in that space of anxiety, we often
Mhm.
our body does not feel safe. So specifically when you were talking about laying down, because if you, because this is what it is, going back to when you were saying about checking in with your body. If you're checking in with your body and you're not feeling safe, you're going to want to get the hell out of there. So even if
Mhm.
you know, like, I'm in my house, why do I not feel safe? You want to make sure that you literally tell yourself, I am grounded and safe prior,
Right, right.
right?
Or as it's happening, can I share with you what's coming up for me?
Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so, um, I'm a new mom, and it was in the pandemic and COVID, and I ended up having a lot of dental problems. Um, dental office was closed. I had developed gingivitis, couldn't get in to get a cleaning, wasn't practicing the greatest hygiene because I'm sleep deprived. It's Tully, right? So I developed really advanced periodontal disease. And so I had to make the choice. I had to go in and have an emergency surgery. And then I had to make a choice about laser surgery on my gums. Okay. And I have a history of trauma with my mouth going way back. And so I had to endure two surgeries, 3.5 hours each. And I was not put to sleep. And all my trauma and all my anxiety was coming up. And it was like there was nothing I could do. And I'm sitting in that dental chair and I am like holding everything back from punching Dr. Melnick in the face, right? Like my body just wants to fight or run away, and I can't. I have to endure. And so I used this as a learning opportunity of like, okay, this is the reality. You're going to have to endure this. It's going to be painful because he's doing local anesthesia, and the adrenaline is making it all wear off. So he's constantly having to go in, and he does a whole half of the mouth at the time, 3.5 hours, 2 weeks apart. And so what I had to do was sit in the chair, tune into my breath, observe what was going on in my mind, right? Talk about having to face it, like all sorts of memory coming up, watching it like a film, feeling different parts of my body tense up, especially the neck and the shoulders and the jaw, right? And having to conscientiously say, breathe, relax. And then the thing that I found out about halfway through the first surgery was I need to focus on the spots of my body that feel safe. And I was like, what part of my body feels okay right now? What part of my body is not going through physical trauma? Oh, my calves, my ankles, my feet. And so taking time to tap into those spots and saying, I'm safe here, and I can move my ankles, I can move my feet. I may not be able to move my whole body and run through the streets right now, but I can move my toes. I can move my ankles. I can gently extend and lengthen my knees. I can contract my glutes, my butt, and release. And then once I tapped into those safe places, I was then able to, carry that safety and that ease into the rest of my body. And, involuntarily, my eyes were crying, and the hygienist assistant and Dr. Melnick are both aware that I'm crying. And they've been doing this forever, right? They see all sorts of reactions and responses. And so they just gently checked in and were like, are you okay? I'm like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then there were times when I was like, I need a break. I got to stop. We take a break, take some deep breaths. I could even get up, move around, look at the fishes in the aquarium, and then sit back in the chair and go through it again. So, yeah, for some reason that came up. I don't know how or why, but that came up. And it was like, talk about a practice of being aware of trauma and the mind journey and the body physical response of what's going on, and not knowing I can't do anything about this except breathe and move what I can move through this.
I I love it. I don't love that you had to go through that. I love that
It was awful.
I do not love it all that you had to go through that. I love the two highlights from that I took. So the first, why it came up, part of it I feel like is from you talking about being able to tap in and remind yourself that you're safe during the stressor versus
Mhm.
beforehand. So here, and so here's something I want to highlight is that you teach yoga. You make a practice of tuning into your body so it was easily accessible for you when you were dealing with a very traumatic experience. Some people going to the dentist, depending on,
Don't have this.
they'll have it for something else that you won't have it for. So it's so personal. I want to just highlight the idea of that body awareness. Like when people say, well, why should I take 5 minutes now? Why should I take 2 minutes to, put my bare feet on the hardwood floor even, or put my bare feet in the grass, or check in with my body now? It's because right now it's a mundane space. It's a Sunday morning. You're feeling safe. It's the same muscle that you're building so that when you are in the dental chair, you are in the conference room, or you are asking for a raise, or you are having a really difficult conversation,
Yes.
it's so easily accessible. You're not searching for something to keep you grounded
Mhm.
because you've already been practicing it.
Yes.
I feel like that is the entire purpose, to be able to prepare yourself for all of the unexpected that are especially when you're a new mom and there's so many floods of everything, rainbow of color of
Uh-huh.
emotions going on, and then getting completely sidelined by something that you do have a previous traumatic connection to. Oh my gosh, thank God you were able to tap into a practice that you regularly do, right?
Mhm.
And the second,
Mhm.
I love the idea of focusing on the strength and the strong parts of your body.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so powerful.
Right. Or like even, recovering from I had a C-section, a planned scheduled C-section, and had no idea what my body was going to be going through, and I remember 2 hours after the surgery the nurses are already encouraging me. They're like, "Okay, it's time. Get up and walk to the door." And I was like, "Oh." And so just taking it one step at a time and feeling my feet on the floor and feeling movement, even if it was such a turtle pace. I got to tell you, walking was my mantra for the next 6 weeks. Even if I could only walk for 10 minutes, barely putting one foot in front of the other, it's progress.
It totally is. And I want to highlight again. So the C-section, putting one
Mhm.
foot, so there are two things there too. So starting at the beginning, you having a C-section it's a huge surgery. In
Mhm.
addition, you just brought a human into the world. And so there's so much to that in and of
Yeah.
itself. And it's your body. And so for a nurse to say, okay, we need you to get up and walk right away, your trust in that, even if you were feeling like, no way, there's no way I can
Mhm.
do that, I would gather and fill in here too, that you practicing checking in with your body consistently prior, and you just familiarizing yourself and knowing yourself, knowing your body,
Mhm.
there's a clear um, access to when it's like, no way, I understand you're the expert and everything in my body is saying no. Or,
Mm.
oh, I am kind of scared. Underneath that, though, it is saying yes.
Yes. Right. And that's why we do the practice, to know it's intuitive. It's intuition. And intuition is that subtle whisper, right? And as you're sharing all of that with me, that's what I'm thinking about. And that's what I'm tapping into, is that subtle gentle, patient, underlying knowledge that, yes, this is scary, and yes, I can do this. And then in the extreme other end, so I am not a physical risk taker. I don't like roller coasters. I come from a family of skydivers and paragliders and jumping with bungee cords, and not me. No way. And I'll try, like, I'll get up there and I get to the edge. And that's a moment of when that underlying knowledge is saying, nope, Kat, you are not doing this. Nope, step down and it's okay.
And you're nailing exactly what that is in regards to differentiating. Hold on, let me get my gallery view there. Differentiating between fear, like the
Mhm.
feeling of fear, and then the intuitive protective, which is hard to discern if you don't practice it when the stakes are super low. Like when the stakes are super low,
Yeah.
you know what like when nothing is at stake, when it's like when you're at a restaurant, you go to the diner for breakfast and you're like, I'm just going to go with my intuition. I'm not going to go with what I usually go with. I'm just going to like, that's when you're strengthening, paying attention to where you constrict or where you expand. So that when you
Mhm.
have those moments, I always compare it to like the classic teen about to get in a car with friends and someone's been drinking. Like
Yeah.
there is that intuitive, like this is not right. And then there's the fear that's kind of like, possibly. There are teens who would go, no, this isn't right. I'm out of here. Then there are
Mhm.
teens who, if someone maybe had one or two beers, they might be like, but I don't want to be I'm scared to not fit in, or I don't want to be the one to say no, or
Mm.
whatever the reason is. So the more we can pay attention to, as you were talking about, like the one underneath, that
Mhm.
knowing that even though there's fear, there's still a steady underneath just nodding
Mhm.
their head, or there's a steady underneath going, no, like the fear and the no, yeah, that's totally aligned. And the fear of
Yeah.
this is uncomfortable, yet there is a yes, like underneath that. You only know that when you practice it. It's not going to just show up.
Right. Right. And as you're sharing all of that and you brought up the teens, I practice movement improvisation with teens every Friday. I love, 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 love it. I've been teaching movement improvisation for 20 some years now, and teens are the best. And it's so important. So, we get into the studio space, and I usually put on really fun pop music, and we practice listening to our bodies and honoring, well, how does your head want to move right now? And your head may want to move differently than so and so right next to you and everyone else in the room. And so by practicing this exercise of moving and improvising, oh, how do my shoulders want to move right now? Ooh, how does my heart feel like moving tonight? And how is that different than other Friday nights? Right. And by doing that practice every week, these teens, I hope, are getting in touch with that baseline, consistent foundation, that grounding, that inner knowing.
That is it. That is it. And that is exactly when you and I first talked about you coming on as a guest, was how does movement allow for us to release the gunk stuff so that we can get
Mhm.
back into our body, so that we can start paying more attention to what's going on, so that we feel safer, because we have to feel safe. So it's kind of a paradox, if that's the
Yes.
right word, of like,
Yeah.
you need to feel safe and comfortable to be able to explore. And you also have to feel comfortable enough to feel uncomfortable,
Absolutely.
right?
So one exercise I do is we do sequential movement, which is sequencing through the body, fingers to wrist to elbow to shoulder to heart to belly to hip, because it's all connected. And that one's really fun. It's easy, it's flow, it's connected to breath. And then I'm like, okay, now we're going to explore. And I call it disjointed. And disjointed is going from the wrist to the knee, maybe to the hip, maybe to the ear. So it's not this connective through line. And it's kind of staccato and jerky and awkward. And whenever I present this, with movers of all ages, it's so fun to experiment, because then afterwards I'm like, okay, which one felt easy? Well, sequential felt easy. Which one felt weird? And they're like, oh yeah, disjointed, weird, because you have to stop and think. But it's important to have those practices so that you are leaning into that stuff that's uncomfortable, because that's how we grow and how we invent.
It is. And I keep feeling like when you're saying the staccato, you make me think of Josh Pice, who was on from Committed Impulse, because that's everything that they do, which is amazing. So you have to, I know I gave you his info before, but you definitely have to check him out. When you were talking about, he actually has staccato as one of his inner atomics, like one of his, so it's so cool. So when you, so yes, at first you need to think, and yet you don't, because you're giving them the direction of what part of their body to focus on, right? So you don't, so yes, you could go there for safety out of fear of the unknown, what's Kat gonna say, or you can choose to be so present that you're willing to go, it's okay if I don't know, this is kind of fun, it's playful, I don't know what Kat's gonna say, so I'm gonna stay present in my body. And I wonder if that would make it less uncomfortable and more exciting.
Yeah, because then you're curious about it and you're giving yourself permission to try on something kind of weird and strange, and not necessarily, what you're seeing displayed in media as this is what beautiful dance is. This is what beautiful movement is. Hopefully we're exploring, like, well, beauty is subjective. So what's interesting about this? What's curious about this? Staccato can be staccato because it's fiery and it's putting it there, and that takes a lot of courage.
And what a beautiful, I'm thinking when you're saying teens, especially working with teens who feel like they don't have a voice, because there's assertion, it's all assertion. I mean, there's so much assertion, it's courage, it's assertion, it's forward.
Yes.
To be able to evoke that, again, that embodied self-awareness. And it's funny you saying this, because there's a book called, do I have it right here? I don't. I'm going to send it to you, the name of it. Okay. It's by Amanda Blake. And I've sent this to so many people. Our Body is Our Mind, or something like that. And she talks about that. She talks about how if you're going to be doing a training at work, and you're feeling, okay, I just got promoted and I'm a warmer person. I have a tendency to be warmer than I do to be assertive, because both can be coexisting. You can be warm and assertive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can lean one way or the other. So if you
can be strong and graceful, you can be strong and soft.
All
roar in a whisper.
Totally. All at the same time. And so in her book, she talks about those movements, about when you're, so for example, if you're going to be doing a training, or you're going to be something where you need to be in authority and giving direction, if you tend to be more warm, to do any sort of movement that's like what you said, it creates internally your body to be ready to be giving clear direction. Versus if you're more authoritative naturally, or you're more assertive naturally, and maybe you want to ease into the warmth, that's when you do more of the Martha Graham. You do more of the flow. Isn't Martha Graham more like?
Actually, Martha is extremely rigid and
who's the flowy?
Flowy would be like Isadora Duncan. She was the first to dance in nature barefoot in scarves, and
that is it. So cool. So Martha Graham, if you're warm, Martha Graham it up. And if you tend to be more rigid,
I love that.
Into Isadora. And it allows there to be some sort of fluidity. and it works, and it's a does so many things. It gets you out of your head. It allows you to tap into where you feel uncomfortable. You could do it
Mhm.
alone. You could do it for 2 minutes. So I love that idea of just that conscious movement to be
Mhm.
able to prep you so that when you are in moments where, like you shared with yourself, it's just so much more accessible. We hear so much about stillness. You and I were talking offline about that. I would love for you to speak to the idea that having some sort of movement practice allows for stillness to um, seem
In-
more
Inform.
possible or informed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really love one thing I'm trying on right now is the idea because sometimes, with being with Ethan, so Ethan's 2.5 and he's extremely active and curious and always going, which means a lot of times I'm going after him, but sometimes we're in a room and I have to stay centered and I don't get to go into my comfort of always moving around with him. So that means I have to be still. And so one thing I'm enjoying trying on and experimenting with is how can the movement be happening inside even though my container, my body is still, right? So I'm sitting still right now having conversation with you, Christy, and I can still feel the movement that's happening inside my body. So there's like blood is moving, my heart is pumping, there's swirls happening cellularly, right? So even though I may not be moving externally, it's still happening inside the container. And then, oh, now this is really interesting. So now I'm like, well, then what happens if when I'm guiding practice, I say, let's turn the volume down. I like to think of grading. And that comes from my work with children because things are really loud or really quiet, and it's that beautiful space in between, right? The gradient of getting soft too loud and loud too soft. And so if I'm in stillness and I'm thinking about all my cells moving really quickly and rapidly, dancing like sparks, right? And my heart is beating really fast. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to turn the volume. I'm going to grade. I'm going to quiet it down slowly, step by step. And this is where it gets really exciting for me right now is how still can it be? How slowly can it move? I think that comes too from, witnessing and motherhood, learning to learning to love the subtleties and the really small simple steps.
It could come from motherhood. My feeling from you is that it maybe was amplified with motherhood because you have
Ah,
that from working with kids before.
yeah.
What a gift to Ethan that so
Oh.
they're really, truly, it reminds me of that. I think it's Carl Jung has that beautiful quote of, um, there's no greater burden on a child than the unlived life of a parent.
Oh, I've never heard that before. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, come on, mom, open your eyes. Look at the beauty that's going on here. I mean, talk about humbling. It's been a very humbling journey, and I'm so, so, so grateful. I think I really needed it.
What was what is it that makes you say that? What's like the one part that's standing out? Like, I really needed that. What has it helped you do?
Oh, I've had a life journey of a lot of personhood and ego. And I'm grateful for it. And I would never change it for anything. But that external validation, that performative feedback and exchange, and then to go through a long stretch of time where that isn't happening. There's sitting, there's stillness, there's listening, there's witnessing, there's this appreciation of subtlety, like I was saying before, and how, I mean, I don't want to like spin off too much here, but like just the beauty of waking up in the morning and seeing the light come through the windows. Or what's the weather going to be today? Oh, wow. How are we going to navigate this? It's that present, heightened curiosity
That
that I don't. Right. Whereas like before, it almost like before my life almost felt a little bit like a horse race, like goal, keep going, next project, next opportunity. Right. And now it's like, oh, there's a field of opportunity. What are we going to do in the next 10 minutes? And that could even be just sit and watch. Yeah. I needed that. I really did. I think it's like you were saying earlier, it's that beautiful process of aging.
Mm-hmm. And it gives us, I do feel like as creatives, it's the constant dance of keeping our childlike spirit alive, which for most of creatives, we don't have a tough time with that,
right,
while maturing. And I feel like having kids gives us those boundaries of turning into adults, really. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, because what you're saying, I'm hearing, is like you have that access to be able to be curious. When you're creative, when you lean more, we all are creative beings. When you lean more traditionally creative, we can easily tap into curiosity, like, oh, like excitement and awe and wonder. And there's a place for that. And it's so beautiful. And it also, staying with your horse analogy, is being the jockey that is able to like, okay.
Yep. Oh, look.
Hold on. Let's rein your
right. And for me, like it was tapping into this domestic living.
Yes.
I mean, I do laundry and dishes every single day, more than once a day, cleaning up spilled food. And let me tell you, at first, oh, I was so resistant. I was like, what am I doing? All I do is clean all day long. And then I don't know, something happened this past winter. I mean, maybe my cousin was like, for me, it took 18 months. For me, I think it took 2 years plus. And then I was like, okay, this is it. Accept it, live it, breathe it, love it, dance with it. I mean, it's not like I'm always playing music while I'm doing household chores, but sometimes you need it.
Oh, a good dance party when you're doing the dishes or laundry is like a gift from the gods. So I love that. And I want to just, I see we're close to time. So I want to just bring home a point that came up earlier on. And I just feel like it really does overarch everything we've talked about in regards to just taking those few minutes to check in with yourself regularly. It doesn't have to be 20, 25, an hour a day. If you have that opportunity, wonderful. If you have that practice in place, keep going. If you're someone who feels like giving yourself 10 minutes or even 5 minutes seems overwhelming, it just seems like maybe I've been there, you may have been there, just like one more thing to do. Realize that even just like 2 minutes of checking in is building the muscle for you to be able to be proactive with your health, to be able to notice when things are changing. And also with burnout, with being able to pay attention to where your mind's going, to be able to focus better, to be able to know, to that deep knowing that we touched on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're doing that for yourself, it reminds me of what you were saying about your mom. Thank God your mom was aware enough to see in you that you're a mover. And the
Mm-hmm.
only, I just connect that, like, and you talking about Ethan, even leaders in the business world, for anybody who's a leader, home life, community life, work life, being able to check in and connect with yourself and get out of your head
Mm-hmm.
allows you to be so much more aware of your surroundings and the people in it, so that your mom can see, oh, Kat's great at this. I'm observing that because I'm not in my head so much.
Mm-hmm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
see this in Ethan because I'm not in my head so much. As a leader in the business world, I can see this in my direct report. They just lit up when they did that. Oh, I can give them more. So it's just this beautiful reciprocal gift of, again, by connecting with yourself, you inherently are also strengthening your capacity to connect with other people. And if a dance party is involved, who would say no to that? Really? I
Absolutely.
mean, what's
Even
your
if the
go-to?
dance party's happening internally, like I'm
Totally.
thinking
That works too.
you could be at a meeting in a conference room, right? And you could be sitting in your chair and everyone's coming in and setting up their laptops and tablets and organizing files. And that's a dance party right there. And as it's going on, you could be sitting in your chair having this internal dance party for just like 30 seconds. Take a big breath. All right, here we go.
What just came to me when you were doing that was, what's that song by, is it Sheila Easton? My baby takes the morning train.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, you got it. I would sing it, but I'm not going to. You have to look it up. You just have to look it up. It's so catchy and I love it. Yeah. So anywhere you can find that. And I love the internal idea of when you were feeling the stillness, and I want to bring this point home too, when you were feeling that stillness inside, you were feeling safe and connected enough with me because I can feel that through you and we know each other to have
Mhm.
that stillness energy come through to me. When you're feeling maybe
Um,
unnerved because, again, you're having a difficult conversation, or you walk into a room and you didn't expect someone to be there, or you're at a
mhm.
cocktail party and it gets you social anxiety, gives you social
Yes.
anxiety.
Yep.
That pinball feeling when you're walking or you're standing still needs to go somewhere. So then that's where, instead of it going out and projecting vomit all over the person, if
Right.
it's not clear, then that's where it can go down. And there probably are different directions it can go. What's coming to me right now though is that when you're feeling still and you're feeling like full, and just whether it's with your kid or whether it's with another person or an environment, your energy can go out clearly and
Yes.
focused. When you're feeling uncomfortable, to nurture yourself, down,
Mhm.
so you feel more rooted. Do you have anything to add to that I'm missing?
Um, I like what you're sharing about down, grounded, and rooted. And another thing that's coming up is just slowing down the breath. And when you are aware of the pinball going on, and just remembering again, turning that you can turn the knob by feeling contact with your skin, with your body, with whatever it's in contact with. It could be feet on the floor, it could be your bottom on the seat, it could be your back into the chair. And then yeah, slowing breath. And for me, another thing that comes up, for me, I'm aware of my own body, but I have a tendency to clench my jaw. And so, yeah, when I'm guiding practice, I'm always like, okay, let's open and close the jaw. Let's run our tongue along our teeth. Let's swallow, take a deep breath, and then easing the muscles of the face too.
I love when you do that in the class where we're like touching our
Yeah.
head and our ears. And
Yeah.
that's such a
Ears.
simple, just to end there, just to give like one or two exercises that people can do in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
one makes me, so if you could give two, can you include the ear one? Because
absolutely.
yeah, so one or two
So,
exercises.
I love EFT. I love tapping, and I follow some qigong on YouTube as well. But anytime I mean, your hands are healers. So throughout the day, in the hustle and the bustle of life, this is a big one for me. I like to just bring my hands to the back of my neck and support the back, the base of my skull, fingertips coming around. Yeah. And then you can circle these fingertips around behind the ears. And then, yeah, we'll end with, so that's one, just tracing up. And then two is pulling on the pinna, upper earlobe. And I do a deep breath in the nose, out the mouth. And then I love this. This is called the oracle. I just love that word, oracle, listening, and a breath in the nose, out the mouth. And then I usually just end with a little shake of the wrists. Yeah. And that takes 20, 30 seconds.
And it's so grounding. It's so, and then you pay attention. Like I didn't even notice before that my throat feels a little, not scratchy, but just that I could be maybe having a little bit of water after this, just to open my throat a little bit more.
Yeah.
So midday, anytime, just to do that.
Anytime.
And for people before they're about to be presenting or speaking, and I am saying even like a conversation like this.
Listening. Yeah. If you have to listen and be
Taking the
tuned
words out of my
in
mouth.
and attentive, just pull on the ears.
And it feels so good. You're not going to want to do it. Here's the thing. You're not going to just want to do it for 30 seconds. You're going to want to know you aren't. I will put money down that, especially the audience that listens to this and watches this, you're not going to do it for 30 seconds. They're going to do it longer because you can't help it. You're going to want to slow it down even more, like, oh, wow. Because who pays that much attention to their ears? And it's like, you can feel it through your entire body.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful.
Right.
Oh, I love it. And I love the most difficult part of this I'm hearing is remembering. So if you can find your purpose for making a conscious effort for the pause, whether it's preventing burnout, whether it's paying more attention to your health internally, whether it's paying more attention to the person in front of you, saying like, I'm going to meet with Kat, I'm going to do this ear thing. Like, I feel like I have no time, but right now it's not about me. It's about Kat. So I'm going to do my ear thing for Kat. We're more likely to stop because of that. And then if you get to the point where you can say it about yourself, like, you know what? No, I do. This is worthy of myself, to give myself like a neck rub. Like that feels really, I inevitably will be showing it better for you. It is so, that's the one thing I love about it, is anytime you do any sort of self-awareness practice and self-regulation practice, you are simultaneously enhancing your capacity for connection, for empathy, for social awareness. Like it's so all interconnected. So
because when we tap into ourselves, we're tapping into the collective.
We're ending where we started. We're just going to do a staring contest. Just kidding.
And then cackle. Yeah, it was Conan O'Brien and Jim Carrey. Oh, I used to love Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Oh my gosh, I'm like sweating right now. Oh, Kat, you're so funny. You're so accessible and funny. Oh, my dear. Okay, well,
thank you for holding this space.
And oh my goodness,
and inviting me to show up. And it was fun.
It was so much fun. And when people want to learn more about you and about the classes you're offering, where can they find you?
Okay, I'm on Instagram.
What's your handle?
My Instagram is C Wright _B.
B as in boy, but C Wright with the W. So
C
W-R-I-T-H.
WRIGHT
Mhm.
underscore BE.
And we'll put that in the show notes too.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a wonderful
Thank
rest of your
you.
day.
You too. It's going to be gorgeous.
Beautiful.